probably anybody who becomes a coach, right at first we're like, oh, I get to do coaching. I get to coach everybody. And then you work with somebody where you're like, oh.
Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Business Talk Library, and today I have a very fun and a very wise and exciting guest, Ms. Elaine Jacques. Welcome to the show, Elaine.
Thank you so much, Terrell. I'm super excited to be here and just have this great conversation with you today.
Awesome. Now, something that really stood out to me about your profile when we connected on LinkedIn is that you are truly a leader of leaders. I mean, there are so many leaders that come to you that, getting your advice and your coaching. Like, what was your background before you became a leadership executive coach?
Oh, now we're going to dive into my fun history. So my most recent career prior to this one, my third career is I'm a medical speech language pathologist. So that gives me kind of a fun perspective on life and problems and whether or not they're first world or real world. I basically, side note here, I basically come at leaders with the idea of, is anyone going to die from this decision? Okay, then let's just breathe, calm, work through it. It's going to be okay. So I come at it with that perspective and a lot of neuroscience and everything and lots of my other certifications, which I won't bore everyone with. You can look at my LinkedIn profile for that. Before that, I worked in corporate. I did human resources, payroll, marketing. I did wedding planning. I did wedding photography. So I've done a whole plethora of other things. And then before that, I actually taught English as a foreign language in South Taiwan when I was 18, because, you do that when you're crazy and young. So that's sort of a very brief snapshot of how I came at leadership coaching and why I love working with people from all over the world and just being a part of helping people become even more amazing.
Awesome. I mean, that's quite the, I guess you'd say, spectrum of a background.
Yes.
To be able to have that many interactions with people in different settings. I mean, it makes sense why you're able to understand leadership and just understand people in different situations because your background is so broad.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it about leadership coaching that really attracted you to say, hey, you know what, out of all the things that I've done, this is where I want to put my energy?
Well, that's always a good question based on my history, but I love working with people who have already done things with their life and are focused on wanting to do them even better, to go on and do bigger things. I like talking about legacy and what kind of legacy are you going to leave behind when you're ready to step off the planet, if you will, and how can we make that be super positive and something that as you're sitting on the proverbial rocking chair on your porch, not that I think most people have that anymore, but that you can look back and your history makes you smile and you feel good about it and you feel good about what you have done. And if I get to be a part of that, for me, that's part of my legacy. And I think that's really, really fun and amazing, is just to be able to embody my tagline on LinkedIn, which I referenced earlier, is you plus 1% today, which is take you, add 1% to it, do it today and move on and become even more amazing. And I like to use that because it embodies my belief that we aren't broken. We aren't like a little egg we've never done anything, never hatched, never experienced anything. We've all done really amazing things in our lives and been resilient. And how can I help you take those next steps and become even more amazing? Because that is my philosophy on life, is just let's go from here and take you to there, wherever there is for you. And I am not going to be able to remember who the quote is by, and that's super embarrassing. But the quote that says, if you help inspire people, if you help empower people, and I'm botching the quote terribly, but you are a leader. It's not a title that makes you a leader, which is why I don't say I'm an executive presence and an executive coach. I do coach executives, but I believe if you're trying to do better and if you're helping inspire people to do better, you're a leader, and I want to work with you.
Awesome. Awesome. So what was that journey like, taking it from an amazing mission like that to now creating a business around that mission?
Oh, that's fun. Of course. I think probably anybody who becomes a coach, right at first we're like, oh, I get to do coaching, I get to coach everybody. And then you work with somebody where you're like, oh, okay, that wasn't the most wonderful experience ever. Okay, so let's review, maybe not that, because you can't. Everybody has different people that they resonate with. And so getting really clear on, what do I like to do? What's my focus? What do I want to help people do? And then how do I work with people who want those kinds of things from me, and not work with people who, my least favorite, I'm going to tell you, are people who just really want to talk. And I'm not all about, oh, you can talk all you want. By the end of this conversation, you're going to pick action steps and you're going to do those things. I call myself a tough love cheerleader for a reason. I'm all like, yay, go you, you're amazing. You're going to work. That's all there is to it. We may laugh while we're doing it and have fun, but at the end of this conversation, action steps, time frame, the SMART goals thing, that's what it's all about. Is I don't want to just talk. If you want to just talk, that's what you have your dog, your girlfriend, your bartender, your pastor, whoever it is for you, you go talk to them. If you want to actually work and get things done, then you're my people. So that would be for me sort of the philosophy. And I totally lost what your question was. I got all excited about talking about that. So
It was fun because I'm always curious when, I interview a lot of entrepreneurs on the show. And one of the things that, a lot of them have talked about is like, they found that thing that they really enjoy and they really love doing. But it's like then, and they had that great mission, but figuring out how to build a business around it, like all the not so fun things about building a business. It's like learning that part was a process for them because they loved the craft of what they did, but they didn't always know exactly, hey, how am I going to approach this as a business? And so I was curious of what that journey was like for you.
So thank you for clarifying that for me. I get all lost. For me, actually, one of the things that I did was getting on LinkedIn was a big part of my coaching journey. I've never been on social media before for a variety of sort of personal protective reasons, working in hospitals with sometimes some unhinged patients, if we can say so delicately. So getting on LinkedIn was my biggest sort of step in that direction of opening myself up and saying, okay, who can I learn from? And I actually went through the process for probably about the first year of reaching out to coaches that I would see posting things, reaching out saying, can I just have 15 minutes of your time? And I would give them in advance, these are the questions that I would like to have answered. And one of the things that I asked them was, what do you wish you had known when you first started out that you know now? Because I thought, you've gone ahead of me, and now I'm just like, please send the ladder back down, help me out here. And I learned a lot through that process of what they had struggled with and what they would do differently now if they could go back, because that allowed me not to have to, make all the learning opportunities that they had going forward. And so that's something that I would definitely encourage people, is look at who's already doing the thing that you think you want to do, and then reach out and have, a brief, very targeted conversation, be respectful of their time, and ask them, what would they share with you? That is something that I think has helped me a lot to be able to understand, how do you market this? How do you do this? How do you build relationships? Who do you reach out to? All of those things. You're just kind of swimming around going, hey, this is fun new water. What am I doing here? How am I doing the thing? So that would be a little snippet of part of what my journey has been, and what I would definitely recommend to people to do, because I found that very, very helpful.
Awesome, awesome. So, what was maybe a challenge that you kind of faced as you were kind of building out your business? Like another type of lessons you were like, "Hey, I need to figure out how to do this, or I need to figure this piece out." That you at some point found a solution to.
Well, I think the interesting thing is, number one, you have to be clear on what it is that you want to do. At first, I was super like, hey, I can coach everyone. Everyone's amazing. And everyone is amazing in their own way, but that doesn't mean I'm the right coach for you. And so being clear on who do I enjoy working with, what kinds of coaching do I enjoy most, and narrowing it down to saying, yeah, I can do lots of things. I mean, that's my fourth career and lots of things that I have done in the meantime. There are lots of things that I can do, but what lights me up? Because where I thrive the most is where I'm going to do the best work. and just being able to be honest with myself ego-wise. So sure, you can coach anybody, but who do you do the best work with? Because that's where you are going to be of the most benefit to the humans that you do work with. So I think the challenge at first was being willing to admit that and being willing to say, okay, pick something. You know, you don't necessarily have to say, okay, I only work with women who are, 43 to 47 years old. I mean, that's just silly, but that's not where the focus needs to be. But I would say the challenge was for me was definitely picking a focus and figuring out what I do enjoy most, and being able to say to people who reach out to me, oh, I get a lot of, I'll say my mom's friends, with their, oh, my son, he's 40 something and he doesn't know what he wants to do and everything. Those are not my people. I'm not doing that. I tried it once and oh no, we're not doing that again. We learned that life lesson. We're not doing that again. So now when people reach out to me, I will say, I'm sure there's a coach who'd be great for that. I'd be happy to come up with a list if your son is willing to call me and get that list, because I know that will never happen. So it's a very small threat, then I'll be happy to provide some resources, but that's not the kind of coaching that I do. So I would say definitely that challenge of just becoming really clear on who it is that you are, where do you fit best, what's the best work that you can do, because it's what lights you up and what makes you thrive, and being willing to say, everyone else, yeah, sorry, there's someone else out there that's great for you, but it's not me.
And that's one of those things that I find, like even for myself in doing as a CPA and doing corporate kind of finance consulting and just talking to different business owners, and when I'm going through their numbers, and I'm like, it sounds like your products are like all over the place. It seems like you're trying to help everybody, where it's like you have to get a little bit more comfortable focusing on what's your niche. And what I find is that, or have you seen that people tend to have a little anxiety about letting some stuff go to really focus?
Oh, absolutely. I think I think the term is FOMO, fear of missing out. That if I can stretch myself thin, then look at all the great amount of market share I can have. If I can do all of these things, then look how much more money I can make, or whatever it is that the motivating factor is. I think as a coach, it's, the anxiety over, am I going to be a good coach? Am I going to be able to do good work? Well, if I can coach everybody, then I'll be the best coach ever. And that's of course not true. There are fantastic coaches that are the best coaches ever for the things that they do. But I do think it's a matter of saying, okay, what can I do really well? And thinking about quality over quantity would be the thing that I would definitely say to people. Focus on what's best, what you do really, really well, not what you can do. As we touched on earlier, I'm also a medical speech language pathologist, very, very part-time now. And I do it really well. But is it what lights me up? No, that's not where I do my best work now. I can. And, on the rare days that I go into the hospital now and help out, I do enjoy it. I put myself into it, but I get to the end of the day and I go, wow, there's a different level of energy today versus when I get to the end of a day of coaching, where I'm like, oh, I got to do that. That was super fun. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness that's over. There's a big difference. And so recognizing that and being cognizant of what really lights you up and focusing on that, and don't try to do
Awesome.
everything.
And now, speaking of focusing on what you do well, please help us understand, what are the services and the type of coaching that you provide?
So my favorite thing that I focus on is one-to-one coaching. I love that the best, with a leader who's, partway along on their journey and just needs that little extra something to be able to do that next big thing that they want to do. That's my best focus. I also do team leadership coaching. So if a company has a leadership team and they're trying to bring them together, maybe they've struggled a little bit, or they're reasonably recent startup and they're just trying to build that team as they get bigger and bigger, I do that as well. And I do enjoy that. I will tell you, I'm on the introverted side of the introvert extrovert scale. So for me, the bigger the crowd, the more I'm like, okay, I can do this, but it's a little bit of a stretch goal for me. So honestly, it is a stretch goal for me. I will do it, and I always enjoy it once I've done it. Past tense, like, oh, Yay, that was fun. It's over now. I do trainings as well. But again, the bigger the crowd, the more likely I need to spend some time buffing myself up and getting my nerves ready. And again, I always enjoy it once I'm done, but those are stretch goals for me where I find myself in my happiest place is one-to-one coaching.
Awesome. Now, where can people find you online or on social media?
So I am only on LinkedIn. So if you're looking for me anywhere else, it's not going to happen. But LinkedIn, /IN/Elaine Jacques, all squished together. And I always say, look for the red hair and the big smile, and you found me.
Awesome. Awesome. So one question that I like to ask before I end any interview with any guest is I like to ask them to add 2 pieces of advice they've kind of learned on their journey. Now, you've already given us some, so we'll cut it down to just one.
Okay. See, I love pre-answering questions. It's so exciting for me. So I would say my just one, since I tucked one in earlier. What I would say that I truly embody, because I'm just a nerd, but continue learning, continue growing, continue the process of stretching yourself and doing things that maybe scare you, because that helps you develop really good emotional intelligence and having that empathy for people that you work with who are doing those kinds of things, because coaching is hard work. It's not easy making changes. It's not easy implementing things that maybe you've been in an environment for 10 years and now all of a sudden people are like, why is Bob doing that weird now? Why is he talking to me now? So your people that you work with, they are going through change. And the best way to maintain yourself as the best coach that you can be, speaking specifically of coaches, but it's a little bit more broadly applicable, is to continue your learning. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, you're going to discover I have a rather plethora of certifications and licensures that I have, and that's purposeful. I love learning. I love growing. And I think it helps me to be a better coach just because I'm continually adding facets to the things that I'm able to offer to somebody. And I think that's a really good thing for most people to do, is just recognize you're never going to know everything there is to know. And there's a whole lot to know, and it's super cool. So go take advantage of it. Follow people around, find out the things that they're reading and being inspired by, and check it out for yourself.
Awesome. Well, Elaine, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story, and also for sharing your pieces of wisdom at various points throughout the interview.
Just sorry, I just can't keep it all together. I have to spread it out.
Well, definitely we wish you all the best as you continue to, make progress and help as many people and continue your mission with your organization.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the kind invitation to have me on your show. It has been so much fun.
Awesome. Thanks for tuning in to the Business Talk Library. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, be sure to click the subscribe button and follow us on all social media platforms as the Business Talk Library.